little bit of time ago. We were at chapter 11, a nickel-plated emperor. So just relax and listen to me. We are with Angel and Philip. Tip awoke soon after dawn, but the scarecrow had already risen and plucked, with his clumsy finger, a double handful of ripe berries from some bushes nearby. These the boy ate greedily, finding them an ample breakfast, and afterward the little party resumed its journey. After an hour's ride, they reached the summit of a hill, from whence they espied the city of the Winkies, and noted the tall domes of the Emperor's palace, rising from the clusters of more modest dwellings. The scarecrows became greatly animated at his side and exclaimed, let's put a little bit of light. How delighted I shall be to see my old friend the Tin Woodman again. I hope that he rules his people more successfully than I ever ruled mine. Is the Tin Woodman the Emperor of the Winkies? Asked the horse. Yes, indeed. They invited him to rule over them soon after the Wicked Witch was destroyed, and as Nick Chopper has the best heart in all the world, I am sure he has proved an excellent and able emperor. I thought that emperor was the title of a person who rules an empire, said Tip, and the country of the Winkies is only a kingdom. Don't mention that to the Tin Woodman, exclaimed the scarecrow earnestly. You will hurt his feelings terribly. He is a proud man, as he has every reason to be, and it pleases him to be termed emperor rather than king. I'm sure it makes no difference to me, replied the boy. The horse now ambled forward at a pace so fast that his riders had hard work to stick upon his back. So there was little further consideration until they drew up beside the palace steps. An aged Winky, dressed in a uniform of silver cloth, came forward to assist them to alight. Said the scarecrow to his personage, show us at once to your master, the emperor. The man looked from one to another of the party in an embarrassed way, and finally answered, I fear I must ask you to wait for a time. The emperor is not receiving this morning. How is that? Inquired the scarecrow anxiously. I hope nothing has happened to him. Oh no, nothing serious, returned the man. But this is His Majesty's day for being polished, and just now his august presence is thickly smeared with Pat's pomade. Oh, I see, cried the scarecrow, greatly reassured. My friend was ever inclined to be a dandy, and I suppose he is now more proud than ever of his personal appearance. He is indeed, said the man with a polite bow. Our mighty emperor has lately caused himself to be nickel-plated. Good gracious, the scarecrow exclaimed at hearing this. If his wit bears the same polish, how sparkling it must be. But show us in, I'm sure the emperor will receive us, even in his present state. The emperor's state is always magnificent, said the man, but I will venture to tell him of your arrival, and will receive his commands concerning you. So the party followed the servant into a splendid anteroom, and the sawhorse ambled awkwardly after them, having no knowledge that a horse might be expected to remain outside. The travellers were at first somewhat awed by their surroundings, and even the scarecrow seemed impressed as he examined the rich hangings of silver cloth coiled up into knots and fastened with tiny silver axes. Upon a handsome center table stood a large silver oil can, richly engraved with scenes from the past adventures of the Tin Woodman, Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow, the lines of the engraving being traced upon the silver in yellow gold. On the walls hung several portraits, that of the Scarecrow seeming to be the most prominent and carefully executed, while at a large painting of the famous Wizard of Oz. Ah, while a large painting of the famous in act of presenting the Tin Woodman with a heart, covered almost one entire end of the room. While the visitors gazed at these things in silent admiration, they suddenly heard a loud voice in the next room exclaim, "Well, well, well, what a great surprise!" And then the door burst open, and Nick Chopper rushed into their midst and caught the Scarecrow in a close and loving embrace that creased him into many folds and wrinkles. "My dear old friend, my noble comrade!" cried the Tin Woodman joyfully. "How delighted I am to meet you once again!" And then he released the Scarecrow and held him at arm's length while he surveyed the beloved painted features. But alas, the face of the Scarecrow and many portions of his body bore great blotches of Pat's pomade, for the Tin Woodman, in his eagerness to welcome his friend, had quite forgotten the condition of his toilet, and had rubbed the thick coating of pasta from his own body to that of his comrade. "Dear me," said the Scarecrow dolefully, "what a mess I'm in!" "Never mind, my friend," returned the Tin Woodman. "I send you to my imperial laundry, and you'll come out as good as new." Gina. "Won't I be mangled?" asked the Scarecrow. Look how much you pretty. "No, indeed," was the reply. "But tell me, how came your Majesty here, and who are your companions?" The Scarecrow, with great politeness, introduced Tip and Jack Pumpkinhead, and the latter personage seemed to interest the Tin Woodman greatly. "You are not very substantial, I must admit," said the Emperor, "but you are certainly unusual, and therefore worthy to become a member of our select society." "I thank your Majesty," said Jack humbly. "I hope you are enjoying good health?" continued the Woodman. "At present, yes," replied the Pumpkinhead with a sigh, "but I am in constant terror of the day when I shall spoil." "Nonsense," said the Emperor, but in a kindly, sympathetic tone. "Do not, I beg of you, dampen today's sun with the showers of tomorrow, for before your head has time to spoil, you can have it canned. Oh, and in that way may be preserved indefinitely." Tip, during this conversation, was looking at the Woodman with undisguised amazement, and noticed that the celebrated Emperor of the Winkies was composed entirely of pieces of tin, neatly soldered and riveted together into the form of a man. He rattled and clunked a little as he moved, but in the main he seemed to be most cleverly constructed, and his appearance was only marred by the thick coating of polishing past that covered him from head to foot. The boy's intent gaze caused the Tin Woodman to remember that he was not in the most presentable condition. So he begged his friends to excuse him while he retired to his private apartment and allowed his servants to polish him. This was accomplished in a short time, And when the emperor returned, his nickel-plated body shone so magnificently that the scarecrow heartily congratulated him on his improved appearance. The nickel plate was, I confess, happy talked, said Nick, and it was the more necessary because I had become somewhat scratched during my adventurous experiences. You will observe this engraved star upon my left breast. It not only indicates where my excellent heart lies, but covers very neatly the patch made by the wonderful wizard when he placed the velvet organ in my breast with his own skillful hands. Is your heart then a hand organ? Asked the Pumpkinhead curiously. By no means, responded the Emperor with dignity. It is, I am convinced, a strictly orthodox art, although somewhat larger and warmer than most people possess. Then he turned to the Scarecrow and asked, Are your subjects happy and contented, my dear friend? I cannot say, was the reply, for the Gorse of Oz have risen in revolt and driven me out of the Emerald City. Great goodness, cried the Tin Woodman, what a calamity! They surely do not complain of your wise and gracious rule? No, but they say it is a poor rule that don't work both ways, answered the Scarecrow. And these famous are also of the opinion that men have ruled the land long enough. So they have captured my city, robbed the treasury of all its jewels, and are running things to suit themselves. Dear me, what an extraordinary idea, cried the Emperor, who was both shocked and surprised. And I heard some of them say, said Tip, that they intend to march here and capture the castle and city of the Tin Woodman. Ah, we must not give them to that. We must not give them time to do that, said the Emperor quickly. We will go at once and recapture the Emerald City and place the Scarecrow again upon his throne. I was sure you would help me, remarked the Scarecrow in a pleased voice. How large an army can you assemble? We do not need an army, replied the Woodman. We four, with the aid of my gleaming axe, are enough to strike terror into the hearts of the rebels. We five, corrected the Pumpkinhead. Five? Repeated the Tin Woodman. Yes, the Sawhorse is brave and fearless, answered Jack, forgetting his recent quarrel with the quadruped. The Tin Woodman looked around him in a puzzled way, for the Sawhorse had until now remained quietly standing in a corner, where the Emperor had not noticed him. Tip immediately called the odd-looking creature to them and approached so awkwardly that he neatly upset the beautiful center table and the engraved oil can. I begin to think, remarked the Tin Woodman as he looked earnestly at the Sawhorse, that wonders will never cease. How came this creature alive? I did it with a magic powder, modestly asserted the boy, and the Sawhorse has been very useful to us. He enabled us to escape the rebels, added the Scarecrow. Then we must surely accept him as a comrade, declared the Emperor. A live Sawhorse is a distinct novelty and should prove an interesting study. Does he know anything? Well, I cannot claim any great experience in life, the Sawhorse answered for himself, but I seem to learn very quickly, and often it occurs to me that I know more than any of those around me. Perhaps you do, said the Emperor, for experience does not always mean wisdom, but time is precious just now, so let us quickly make preparation to start upon our journey. The Emperor called his Lord High Chancellor and instructed him how to run the kingdom during his absence. Meanwhile, the Scarecrow was taken apart, and the painted sack that served him for a head was carefully laundered and stuffed with the brains originally given him by the Grey Wizard. His clothes were also cleaned and pressed by the imperial tailors, and his crown polished, and again sewed upon his head, for the Tin Woodman insisted he should not renounce this badge of royalty. The Scarecrow now presented a very respectable appearance, and although in no way addicted to vanity, he was quite pleased with himself, and strutted a trifle as he walked. While this was being done, Tip mended the wooden limbs of Jack Pumpkinhead and made them stronger than before. And the sawhorse was also inspected to see if he was in good working order. Then, bright and early the next morning, they set out upon the return journey to the Emerald City. The Tin Woodman, how much you have put your head, bearing upon his shoulders a gleaming axe and leading the way, while the Pumpkinhead rode upon the sawhorse, and Tip and the Scarecrow walked upon either side to make sure that it didn't fall off or become damaged. Chapter 12. Mr. H.M. Wogglebug T.E. Now, General Ginger, who we remember commanded the army of revolt, was rendered very uneasy by the escape of the Scarecrow from the Emerald City. She feared, and with good reason, that if His Majesty and the Tin Woodman joined forces, it would mean danger to her and her entire army, for the people of Oz had not yet forgotten the deeds of these famous heroes, who had passed successfully through so many startling adventures. So Ginger sent post-haste for old Mombi the witch and promised her large rewards if she would come to the assistance of the rebel army. Mombi was furious at the trick Tip had played upon her, as well as at his escape and the theft of the precious powder of life. So she needed no urging to induce her to travel to the Emerald City to assist Ginger in defeating the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman, who had made the Tip one of their friends. Mombi had no sooner arrived at the royal palace than she discovered, by means of her secret magic, that the adventurers were starting upon their journey to the Emerald City. So she retired to a small room high up in a tower and locked herself in while she practiced such arts as she could command to prevent the return of the Scarecrow and his companions. That was why the Tin Woodman presently stopped and said, "Something very curious has happened. I ought to know by heart and every step of this journey, yet I fear we have already lost our way." "That is quite impossible," protested the Scarecrow. "Why do you think, my dear friend, that we have gone astray?" "Why, here before us is a great field of sunflowers, and I never saw this field before in all my life. All these words, they all looked around, only to find that they were indeed surrounded by a field of tall stalks, every stalk bearing at its top a gigantic sunflower. And not only were these flowers almost blinding in their vivid hues of red and gold, but each one whirled around upon its stalk like a miniature windmill, completely dazzling the vision of the beholder, and so mystifying them that they knew not which way to turn. "It's witchcraft!" exclaimed Tip. While they paused, hesitating and wondering, the Tin Woodman uttered a cry of impatience and advanced with swinging axe to cut down the stalks before him. But now the sunflowers suddenly stopped their rapid whirling, and the travelers plainly saw a girl's face appear in the center of each flower. These lovely faces looked upon the astonished band with mocking smiles, and then burst into a chorus of merry laughter. This is funny to imagine, at the dismay their appearance caused. Stop, stop, cried Tip, seizing the woodman's arm. They're alive, they're ghosts. At that moment the flowers began whirling again, and the faces faded away and were lost in the rapid revolutions. The Tin Woodman dropped his axe and sat down upon the ground. It would be heartless to chop down those pretty creatures, said he despondently, and yet I do not know how else we can proceed upon our way. They look to me strangely like the faces of the army of revolt, mused the Scarecrow, but I cannot conceive how the ghosts could have followed us here so quickly. I believe it's magic, said Tip positively, and that someone is playing a trick upon us. I've known old Mombi do things like that before. Probably it's nothing more than an illusion, and there are no sunflowers here at all. Then let us shut our eyes and walk forward, suggested the woodman. Excuse me, replied the Scarecrow. My eyes are not painted to shut. Because you happen to have thin eyelids, you must not imagine we are all built in the same way. And the eyes of the sawhorse are not eyes, said Jack, leaning forward to examine them. Nevertheless, you must ride quite quickly forward, commanded Tip, and we will follow after you and so try to escape. My eyes are already so dazzled that I can scarcely see. So the Pumpkinhead rode boldly forward, and Tip grasped the stub tail of the sawhorse and followed with closed eyes. The Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman brought up the rear, and before they had gone many yards, a joyful shout from Jack announced that the way was clear before them. Then all paused to look backward, but not a trace of the field of sunflowers remained. More cheerfully, now they proceeded upon their journey. But old Mombi had so changed the appearance of the landscape that they would surely have been lost, and not the Scarecrow wisely concluded to take their direction from the sun. For no witchcraft could change the course of the sun, and he was therefore a safe guide. However, other difficulties lay before them. The sawhorse stepped into a rabbit hole and fell to the ground. The Pumpkinhead was pitched high into the air, and his history would probably have ended at that exact moment, and not the Tin Woodman skillfully caught the pumpkin as he descended and saved it from injury. Tip soon had it fit to the neck again, and replaced Jack upon his feet. But the sawhorse did not escape so easily, for when his leg was pulled from the rabbit hole, it was found to be broken, short off, and must be replaced or repaired before he could get a step farther. This is quite serious, said the Tin Woodman. If there were trees nearby, I might so manufacture another leg for this animal. But I cannot see even a shrub for miles around. And there are neither fences nor houses in this part of the land of Oz, added the Scarecrow disconsolately. Then what shall we do? Inquired the boy. I suppose I must start my brains working, replied His Majesty the Scarecrow, for experience has told me that I can do anything if I but take time to think it out. puzzle thing, said Tip, and perhaps we shall find a way to repay the sores. So they sat in a row upon the grass and began to think, while the horse occupied itself by gazing curiously upon his broken limb. "Does it hurt?" asked the Tin Woodman in a soft, sympathetic voice. "Not in the least," returned the horse, "but my pride is injured to find that my anatomy is so brittle." For a time the little group remained in silent thought. Presently the Tin Woodman raised his head and looked over the files. "What sort of creature is that which approaches us?" he asked wonderingly. The others followed his gaze and discovered coming toward them the most extraordinary object they had ever beheld. He advanced quickly and noiselessly over the soft grass, and in a few minutes stood before the adventurers and regarded them with an astonishment equal to their own. The Scarecrow was calm under all circumstances. "Good morning," he said politely. The stranger removed his hat with a flourish, bowed very low, and then responded, "Good morning, one and all. I hope you are, as an aggregation, enjoying excellent health. Permit me to present my card." "Oh, what a gentleman!" With this cordial speech, it extended the card toward the Scarecrow, who accepted it, turned it over and over, and handed it with a shake of his head to Tip. The boy read aloud. You're up on the line. Excuse me 1 second. Mr. H.M. Wogglebug T.E. "Dear me," said the Pumpkinhead, staring somewhat intently. "How very peculiar," said the Tin Woodman. Tip's eyes were round and wandering, and the horse uttered a sigh and turned away its head. "Are you really a Wogglebug?" inquired the Scarecrow. "Most certainly, my dear sir," answered the stranger briskly. "Is not my name upon the card?" "It is," said the Scarecrow. "But may I ask what H.M. stands for?" "H.M. means highly magnified," returned the Wogglebug proudly. "Oh, I see." The Scarecrow viewed the stranger critically. "And are you in truth highly magnified?" "Sir," said the Wogglebug, "I take you for a gentleman of judgment and discernment. Does it not occur to you that I am several thousand times greater than any Bugglebug you ever saw before? Therefore it is plainly evident that I am highly magnified, and there is no good reason why you should doubt the fact." "Pardon me," returned the Scarecrow. "My brains are slightly mixed since I was last laundered. Would it be improper for me to ask also what the T.E. at the end of your name stands for?" "Those letters express my degree," answered the Wogglebug, with a condescending smile. "To be more explicit, the initial mean that I am truly educated." "Oh," said the Scarecrow, much relieved. Tip had not yet taken his eyes off this wonderful personage. What he saw was a great, round, bug-like body, supported upon two slender legs, which ended in delicate feet. The toes curling upward. The body of the Wogglebug was rather flat, and judging from what could be seen of it, was of a glistening dark brown color upon the back, while the front was striped with alternate bands of light brown and white, blending together at the edges. Its arms were fully as slender as his legs, and upon a rather long neck was perched its head, not unlike the head of a man, except that his nose ended in a curling antenna or feeler, and its ears, from the upper points, bore antennas that decorated the sides of its head like two miniature curling pigtails. It must be admitted that the round black eyes were rather bulging in appearance, but the expression upon the Wogglebug's face was by no means unpleasant. For dress, the insect wore a dark blue swallowtail coat with a yellow silk lining and a flower in the buttonhole. The buttonhole. A vest of white ducker that stretched tightly across the white body. Knickerbockers of fawn-colored plush, fastened at the knees with gilt buckles, and perched upon his small head was jauntily set a tall silk hat. Standing upright before our amazed friends, the Wogglebug appeared to be fully as tall as the Tin Woodman, and surely no bug in all the land of Oz had ever before attained so enormous a size. I confess, said the Scarecrow, that your abrupt appearance has caused me surprise, and no doubt has startled my companions. I hope, however, that this circumstance will not distress you. We shall probably get used to you in time. Do not apologize, I beg of you, returned the Wogglebug. It makes me laugh earnestly. It affords me great pleasure to surprise people, for surely I cannot be classed with ordinary insects, and I am entitled to both curiosity and admiration from those I meet. You are indeed, agreed His Majesty. If you will permit me to seat myself in your august company, continued the stranger, I will gladly relate my history, so that you will be better able to comprehend my unusual, may I say remarkable appearance. You may say what you please, answered the Tin Woodman briefly. So the Wogglebug sat down upon the grass, facing the little group of wanderers, and told them the following story. Let's hear the story. Already the title makes me laugh. Chapter 13. A highly magnified history. It is but honest that I should acknowledge at the beginning of my recital that I was born an ordinary Wogglebug. They existed, a Wogglebug in English, I don't know, began the creature in a frank and friendly tone. Knowing no better, I used my arms as well as my legs for walking, and crawled under the edges of stones or hid among the roots of grasses, when not hoped beyond finding a few insects smaller than myself to feed upon. The chill nights rendered me stiff and motionless, for I wore no clothing. But each morning the warm rays of the sun gave me new life and restored me to activity. A horrible existence is this, but you must remember it is the regular ordained existence of Wogglebugs, as well as of many other tiny creatures that inhabit the earth. But destiny has singled me out, humble though I was, for a grander fate. One day I crawled near to a country schoolhouse, and my curiosity, being excited by the monotonous hum of the students within, I made bold to enter and creep along a crack between two boards until I reached the far end, where, in front of a hearth of glowing embers, sat the masters at his deck. No one noticed so small a creature as a Wogglebug, and when I found that the hearth was even warmer and more comfortable than the sunshine, I resolved to establish my future home beside it. So I found a charming nest between two bricks and eat myself drained for many, many months. Professor Know-It-All is doubtless the most famous scholar in the land of Oz, and after a few days I began to listen to the lectures and discourses he gave his pupils. Not one of them was more attentive than the humble who noticed Wogglebug, and I acquired in this way a fund of knowledge that I will myself confess is simply marvelous. That it was I placed T.E., truly educated, upon my cards, for my greatest pride lies in the fact that the world cannot produce another Wogglebug with a tenth part of my own culture and erudition. I do not blame you, said the Scarecrow. Education is a thing to be proud of. I am educated myself. The mess of brains given me by the great wizard is considered by my friends to be unexcelled. Nevertheless, interrupted the Tin Woodman, a good heart is, I believe, much more desirable than education or brains. To me, said the Sawhorse, a good leg is more desirable than either. Could seats be considered in the light of brains? Inquired the Pumpkinhead abruptly. Keep quiet, commanded Tip sternly. Very well, dear father, answered the obedient Jack. The Wogglebug listened patiently, even respectfully, to those remarks, and then resumed the story. I must have lived fully 3 years in that secluded school. I was hurt, said he, drinking thirstily of the ever-flowing fount of limpid knowledge before me. Quite poetical, commented the Scarecrow, nodding his head approvingly. But one day, continued the Bug, a marvelous circumstance occurred. You will fall down. But one day, continued the Bug, a marvelous circumstance occurred that altered my very existence and brought me to my present pinnacle of greatness. The professor discovered me in the act of crawling across the hearth, and before I could escape, he had caught me between his thumb and forefinger, like this. My dear children, said he, I have captured a Wogglebug, a very rare and interesting specimen. Do any of you know what a Wogglebug is? No, yelled the scholars in chorus. Then, said the professor, I will get out my famous magnifying glass and throw the insect upon a screen in a highly magnified condition, that you may all study carefully its peculiar construction and become acquainted with its habits and manner of life. He then brought from a cupboard a most curious instrument, and before I could realize what had happened, I found myself thrown upon a screen in a highly magnified state, even as you now behold me. The students stood up on their stools and craned their heads forward to get a better view of me, and two little girls jumped upon the sill of an open window, where they could see more plainly. Behold, cried the professor in a loud voice, this highly magnified Wogglebug, one of the most curious insects in existence. Being truly educated and knowing what is required of a cultured gentleman, at this juncture I stood upright and, placing my hand upon my bosom, made a very polite bow. My action, being unexpected, must have startled them, for one of the little girls, perched upon the window sill, gave a scream and fell backward out the window, drawing her companion with her as she disappeared. The professor uttered a cry of horror and rushed away through the door to see if the poor children were injured by the fall. The scholars followed after him in a wild mob, and I was left alone in the schoolroom, still in a highly magnified state, and free to do as I pleased. It immediately occurred to me that this was a good opportunity to escape, I was proud of my great size and realized that now I could safely travel anywhere in the world, while my superior culture would make me a fit associate for the most learned person I might chance to meet. So, while the professor picked the little girls, who were more frightened than hurt, off the ground, and the pupils clustered around him closely grouped, I calmly walked out of the schoolhouse, turned the corner, and escaped unnoticed to a grove of trees that stood near. Wonderful! Exclaimed the pumpkinhead admiringly. It was indeed, agreed the Wogglebug. I have never ceased to congratulate myself for escaping while I was highly magnified, for even my excessive knowledge would have proved of little use to me had I remained a tiny, insignificant insect. I didn't know before, said Tip, looking at the Wogglebug with a puzzled expression, that insects wore clothes. Nor do they in their natural state, returned the stranger. But in the course of my wanderings I had the good fortune to save the ninth life of a tailor. Tailors having, like cats, 9 lives, as you probably know. The fellow was exceedingly grateful, for had he lost the ninth life, it would have been the end of him. So he begged permission to furnish me with the stylish costume I now wear. Fits very nicely, does it not? And the Wogglebug stood up, and turned himself around slowly, that all might examine his person. He must have been a good tailor, said the Scarecrow, somewhat enviously, which imagines are now in my imagination. He was a good-hearted tailor, at any rate, observed Nick Chopper. But where were you going when you met us? Deep asked the Wogglebug. Nowhere in particular, was the reply, although it is my intention soon to visit the Emerald City and arrange to give a course of lecture to select audiences on the advantages of magnification. We are bound for the Emerald City now, said the Tin Woodman. So, if it pleases you to do so, you are welcome to travel in our company. The Wogglebug bowed with profound grace. It will give me great pleasure, said, to accept your kind invitation, for nowhere in the land of Oz could I hope to meet with so congenial a company. That is true, acknowledged the Pumpkinhead. We are quite as congenial as flies and honey. But pardon me if I seem inquisitive. Are you not at all rather unusual? asked the Wogglebug, looking from one to another with a concealed interest. No more so than yourself, answered the Scarecrow. Everything in life is unusual until you get accustomed to it. What rare philosophy! Exclaimed the Wogglebug admiringly. Yes, my brains are working well today, admitted the Scarecrow, an accent of pride in his voice. Then, if you are sufficiently rested and refreshed, let us bend our steps toward the Emerald City, suggested the magnified one. We can't, said Tip. The Sawhorse has broken a leg, so he can bend his steps, and there is no wood around to make him a new limb from. And we can't leave the horse behind, because the Pumpkinhead is so stiff in his joints that he has no right to ride. How very unfortunate, cried the Wogglebug. Then he looked the party over carefully and said, if the Pumpkinhead is to ride, why not use one of his legs to make a leg for the horse that carries him? I judge the both are made of wood. Now, that is what I call real cleverness, said the Scarecrow, approvingly. I wonder my brains did not think of that long ago. Get to work, my dear Nick, and fit the Pumpkinhead's leg to the Sawhorse. Jack was not especially pleased with this idea, but he submitted to having his left leg amputated by the Tin Woodman and whittled down to fit the left leg of the sawhorse. Nor was the sawhorse especially pleased with Operation 8, for he growled a good deal about being butchered, as he called it, and afterward declared that the new leg was a disgrace to a respectable sawhorse. I beg you to be more careful in your speech, said the Pumpkinhead sharply. Remember, if you please, that it is my leg you are abusing. I cannot forget it, returned the sawhorse, for it is quite as flimsy as the rest of your person. Flimsy, me flimsy, cried Jack in a rage. How dare you call me flimsy? Because you are built as absurdly as a jumping jack, sneered the horse, rolling his naughty eyes in a vicious manner. Even your head won't stay straight. You never can tell whether you are looking backwards or forwards. Friends, I entreat you not to quarrel, pleaded the Tin Woodman anxiously. As a matter of fact, we are none of us above criticism, so let us bear with each other's faults. An excellent suggestion, said the Wogglebug approvingly. You must have an excellent heart, my metallic friend. I have, returned Nick, well pleased. My heart is quite the best part of me. But now let us start upon our journey. They perched the one-legged Pumpkinhead upon the sawhorse and tied him to his seat with cords, so the could not possibly fall off. And then, following the lead of the Scarecrow, they all advanced in the direction of the Emerald City. And for today we stop here. It was fun in the chapter of today. Hope you enjoyed it as well, and in the next days and before Halloween, I want to finish at least this story. It's almost finished, I guess, this book. Yes. Never read it before. Hope you enjoyed it. See you soon.